So, in the opening scene of this movie, a dense forest is shown, where some workers are cutting down trees. They were actually clearing the southern part of the forest. Everything appears normal during the day. But as evening approaches, one of their colleagues suddenly disappears in a strange manner. The supervisor tries to talk to their head, but receives no response. So, he goes into the forest alone without thinking, which would prove to be a huge mistake for him. Shortly after, a very dangerous creature appears and attacks him fiercely, tearing him to pieces, killing him. The scene then shifts to a place not far from the forest, where we are shown the town's sheriff Paul, who will also be the main character of this story. Now we see Paul sitting alone in a park, quite quietly. At the same time, we see a horse owner who used to have 13 horses, but at this time, there were only 12. One horse had somehow disappeared. To find his missing horse, the man enlists the help of Paul and his partner, who was also a detective. It turns out Paul's partner's name was Donnie. During the investigation, they begin to speculate that the horse might have run away after seeing the gate open. Therefore, they take the case lightly and leave. Paul goes straight from there to his son. It turns out that Paul's wife has separated from him for some reason and is living with her mother. Paul takes his son home and starts cooking for himself. Meanwhile, his son innocently asked Paul, "Dad, when will Mom be with you?" Hearing this from his son, Paul said sadly, "It might take some time for us to find out." While they were discussing this issue, Paul suddenly sensed someone in his own house. When he went out to check, he found no one there. Unperturbed, he put his son to sleep and went to sleep himself. The next morning, as Donnie was coming to Paul's house, he noticed animal footprints outside his house. This confused Paul. When they followed the footprints, they discovered they were all along the road and leading straight into the woods. When the two go to the forest to investigate, they find some strange footprints there too. Unable to resist, Paul begins to inquire about this matter with the forest department. The forest department officials who monitor the forest tell him that they neither know anything about this animal nor have they ever heard of it. This is where the strange footprints become a mystery, with no solution or explanation. Because of this, the people of Paul's town are now quite frightened. Paul also tries very hard to find out about this animal, but he finds nothing. Finally, he allays the townspeople's fears by telling them that it was just a joke. We then see Paul talking to the church priest, who tells him, "My dog has suddenly disappeared." This means that there was news of another animal going missing here too. That's why Father orders a report filed. Meanwhile, we see Donnie, who was in Paul's cabin at the time. Donnie takes a photo of a child from Paul's drawer and begins to examine it closely. This child was actually Paul's, a fact he never told Donnie about. When Paul goes to buy groceries at the store owner starts questioning him about the strange animal. Then another store employee interrupts, saying that his grandfather told him there was something dangerous in the forest that could endanger us. But Paul doesn't believe anything he says. He even says, "What kind of police are you that you haven't been able to catch that animal yet?" This man even tells Paul a lot of things, and Paul himself becomes quite angry at his words. Paul scolds him and leaves. Outside, Paul meets a hunter. He explains that deer used to be abundant in this forest, but now, not a single one is visible anywhere in sight. It seems as if all the deer have disappeared. Not just the deer, but all the animals in the forest have vanished. Paul feels uneasy after hearing the hunter's words, and he goes to his wife's house to pick up his son. His wife tells Paul that when our son and I went to the park, all the children there were saying that the demon monster had arrived and that the footprints from that night were his. This clearly reveals Paul's fear. From their conversation, we also learned that they had separated about 6 months ago and that the reason behind this was a demon monster. The reason was profound. As soon as their conversation was complete, his wife sent her son with Paul. While the father and son were on the road, a strange, dangerous animal suddenly appeared in front of their car and, upon seeing them, quickly ran into the forest. Paul decided to get out of his car to see this strange creature, fearing that his son's life might be in danger. So, he told him to stay inside and got out. When Paul went into the forest, he found the horse's owner's collar, which had belonged to the missing horse. From this, Paul deduced that this monster must have killed and eaten the horse and also killed his father's dog. But for now, he couldn't see the animal anywhere, as it had run away. So, Paul started back toward his car. But when he looks inside his car, his son is gone. This shocks Paul. He calls out for his son, but there's no response, increasing his anxiety. Then, his eyes fall on his horse, and when he goes inside to check, his son is inside. Seeing him brings Paul a sense of relief. Meanwhile, we also see Donnie, who has come to the hunter's bar. He offers Donnie a drink, and the two begin to talk. The hunter tells him a story about the forest that his grandmother told him. The hunter says that spirits are believed to live in this forest. He also tells of a boy who had suddenly disappeared some time ago and when found in the forest was found hanging from a tree 30 feet up. The boy was in terrible condition. Clearly, this act could never have been committed by a human. That's why everyone believes that a demon monster lives in this forest, preying on both humans and animals. All this has now instilled fear in Donnie. Now that he's a resident of this place, his anxiety increases. The next day, Paul and his wife go to their son's school and meet with the principal. The principal complains, saying, "Your son used the wrong word." She also tells them that whenever her son mentions his brother, he makes it sound like he's still alive. His brother had died some time ago, the same child whose picture Donnie found in Paul's drawer. This sparks an argument between Paul's wife and the principal, after which they both leave. Paul was passing by a road when he saw his son's grave, which made him feel a little sad. Donnie was standing on the other side, and upon seeing Paul, he approached him. A short while later, they heard a strange sound. As they looked up at the sky, they saw millions of birds flying overhead. The sight of them terrified them both. Paul tells Donnie that the hunter had said that the world of the jungle had ended, and after seeing all this, he was starting to believe it. This means that all the birds were fleeing the jungle as well. But the point is that the birds were supposed to go to the south area, but they were going the wrong way, which gives them a hint of something strange happening. After listening to Paul, Donnie also tells him about his conversation with the same hunter. When Paul tells him about the body of a boy found in the jungle, Paul dismisses it as a murder case because he didn't believe in creatures. Later that night, we see Donnie with Paul's wife. Donnie fixed his car. During their conversation, Paul tells her the story of his becoming a police officer. Paul's wife also began to share her past. She said, "When I was at my mother's house with my son, my other son and Paul were home alone. Meanwhile, our son went to the swimming pool and accidentally drowned. I had distanced myself from Paul, believing he wasn't a responsible father who could care for his children." That very night, Paul received a call from the horse owner. So, he and Donnie went to the man's house. Upon arriving, he saw the man looking terribly nervous. He explained that someone was banging on his door at that time. The sound didn't sound human at all. That's why he asked Paul and Donnie to join him in finding that man, or whatever it was. But Paul dismisses the matter, attributing it to some childish prank. Just then, a loud noise comes from the shed behind him. Paul goes inside the shed alone and sees the same strange creature that had frightened him away in the woods earlier. Similarly, it escapes Paul today. The next morning, Paul and Donnie return to the hunter's bar, where they discover the creature's large nail marks. Paul, considering the footprints as evidence, attempts to learn more about them, as no creature with such large nails had ever been seen. Then, while Paul was having dinner with his family, his son told him, "I want to be with you too." Paul asked him to wait a little longer. At midnight, while Paul was driving home, he spotted a dead deer on the road. While Paul was checking it out, a dangerous creature attacked him. knocking him down. Luckily, he was unhurt and quickly got back into his car and returned home. The next day, we see Paul and Donnie together again at the bar. Paul also tells Donnie about last night's incident. He says that before, the creature seemed like just a story, but when he was attacked, he realized the creature's presence, that it really does exist. It was here, in this bar, that they met a store worker who began teasing them again, calling them cowards. The next morning, 3 hunters went into the forest to hunt animals. These 3 men were completely unaware that the creature was lying in wait for them, and as soon as they got the chance, they attacked them one by one. A short while later, as Paul was passing through the forest, he suddenly remembered his son. He began acting strangely and calling out for his son. Hearing Paul's voice, a hunter, who was seriously injured, approached. Paul takes him along to help him and begins questioning him. He tells them everything that happened to the hunter in the forest. Hearing this, Paul realized that the forest has become very dangerous, and that every creature there is both cunning and dangerous. The hunter's companions call Paul and tell him to come to the forest quickly. When Paul goes into the forest, he sees the bodies of the 2 remaining hunters hanging from a tree, having been brutally killed. Seeing this, Paul orders everyone to leave the forest and personally calls the forest department team to arrive. The evening weather turns cold, causing everyone to stay indoors, and the entire town becomes deserted. When Donnie visits Paul at his house, Paul shows him a report and explains that a team has disappeared. They were the same woodcutters shown at the beginning of the story. According to Paul, the clearing of the forest has freed the creatures. Just then, the store boy arrives at Paul's house and shows him a video in which a creature is clearly seen running and suddenly disappearing. After everyone leaves, Paul hears his son screaming, as the creature has now entered their house, which is terrifying. Paul quickly locks his son in the bathroom and calls Donnie for help. He arrives shortly after. Donnie tries desperately to catch the creature, but his efforts are in vain, as the lives of the townspeople are now in danger. So, Paul and Donnie take everyone from the town hall to the church to keep them safe. But now, several creatures were lurking outside the church, and they began to roar violently. Paul quickly sends everyone to the basement, and, along with Donnie, goes to confront the creatures. Meanwhile, a creature injures Donnie, but he also shoots the creature in the shoulder, injuring it. But before the creature can kill Donnie, Paul arrives just in time and shoots it dead. After a while, everyone comes out of the basement, overjoyed, realizing the danger has finally passed. But here, Paul and Donnie notice a very alarming and shocking thing. The creature's wounds are healing rapidly. This clearly indicates that it will recover and return to life. This confirms that it is not an ordinary creature, but a demon possessed by a terrifying evil spirit, and that countless creatures like it abound in the forest. The fear is now not limited to the inside of the church, but has spread outside as well, as all these terrifying monster creatures surround the church, making their devastation clearly visible. They will now destroy the entire world. They will not spare even animals or humans. The story ends with this terrifying scene. Don't forget to leave a comment below for more movie explanation videos like this. Thanks for watching.